As a past and between life regressionist, HILARY Lehan has heard it all about the pre-birth planning process, why we intentionally choose difficult lives, why Earth is one of the hardest planets. She's regressed people who have lived as ETs on water worlds, in light planets, as gray extraterrestrials. HILARY says that most of us have lived as extraterrestrials on a variety of different planets. Do you think that that's true for you? If you've had a profound spiritual experience that you would like to share on the show, find the link to apply to be a guest in the description box. I am just fascinated by your work, and I'm excited to get into it. So, for the viewers, we've done 2 interviews previously about HILARY's work as a between and past life regressionist. I'll have those linked in the description. And today we're just going to dive back in with some more stories on your favorite topics: pre-birth planning, life between lives, otherworldly incarnations.
Oh, yes, that's
Yes.
exciting. Yes, yes.
I think I'd like to dive in with the pre-birth planning because that's a very popular topic with my guests. And so you've mentioned to me that some of your clients can go back to memories of choosing their families, their life, and soul missions. And so I like to start with any stories that you have that stand out to you, and then maybe we'll get into some questions about them.
Yeah, I was saying to Melissa before we started taping that, I just have so many audios and stories compiled in the client files and all that. And so I would say some amazing stories. I mean, they're all amazing in their own right? Especially for the person going through it. But amazing stories would be just like knowing that you came here during a time of Earth expansion, right? You are coming here to help others. I mean, we hear this a lot, right? Help others. Someone came through the other day, or a client, right? Went to pre-birth planning, and it came through that she was actually learning about money lack or the lack thereof of money, right? In order, and this was fascinating because I hadn't heard this before, in order to actually teach souls that hadn't incarnated yet about it and what it's like and to prepare for their incarnations. So that was kind of interesting. That was sort of a different take on the whole lesson thing, right? Something that's been coming through with pre-birth planning is less of, how when we usually, the message when we go to the council is, or that the whole visual, if there is visuals with it, is sort of this courtroom style, no judgment, but courtroom style, like beings behind podiums. I have found that recently, over the last year, let's say, it's more at like a boardroom table and beings around the table helping you out, and you sit down and you are coming up with your life, and usually there's like a being in charge that you're sitting next to. It's really kind of fascinating how that has morphed. And I don't know, maybe on the other side, we are going, okay, well, maybe we need less of the judgment style courtroom and more of just this, coming together around a big boardroom type table. So that's been really interesting. If we touch just for a moment before we get into it later about star beings, another word, I guess, alien type beings, that is coming through as if you are like, it's almost as if, sorry, it's almost as if when you pass on here in this life, you will go back to that star being life. right? So no middle ground of being a soul, not being a soul, but being in the light and getting ready for another incarnation or whatever you're meant to do. It is almost like that being, that star being is saying, okay, I'm going to take a break here for a moment and go live a life on Earth to help out and then come back to my life. That that's really interesting to me. I would, really love to understand how that looks afterwards. But yeah, those are some kind of overview points of what has come up for people that, little bits here and there of what seems really fascinating to me.
I'm curious. I remember Dolores Cannon saying something about this when she first started doing her work. Every soul that she would regress would go to the other side, take a break on the other side, maybe, and then plan to reincarnate into another life.
Hmm.
But towards the end of her work or her time working, it was different. She would have people going directly back to source, I remember, or there would be more souls who were volunteering from other planets or wherever they would be who hadn't been to Earth before that were coming in to help. Do you think it could be a situation like that? Or do you think that things are changing? If you've been feeling disconnected from spirit, disconnected from divine love, I have an offering for you. I now offer one-on-one energy work sessions. It's my very favorite work that I've ever done. I completely rebalance your energy field and give you a transfusion of divine love and healing energy for any specific area of need. And follow it up with feedback on what I find in your energy field, a little bit of spiritual coaching, and simple takeaway practices that you can take into your life and implement to help you cultivate a deep connection with divine love. I offer 30-minute sessions, 45-minute sessions, and I'm currently offering 50% off on my 4-session package. Check the link in the description to sign up. Do you think it could be a situation like that? Or do you think that things are changing?
I think it could be a situation like that, mainly because I've had so many people recently, like recently in the last year and a half, that are going to past planets that they sort of started on before coming here, right? And there's sort of this knowledge that, okay, you're taking on this role on Earth. And after that role is done, you'll come back kind of idea. I've had people come through as really tall beings. We couldn't quite figure out what they were. Grays come through as grays, light beings, just light, just energy, light as energy from a planet that is just sort of a really relaxing place to incarnate into. We're just light, right? I think I mentioned before on your channel, mermaid type, you know, oh my gosh, giants, little fairy types. I mean, the lists go on, right? It's almost like there's endless amounts of star being type. Yeah, incarnations out there, right?
And these star beings who are incarnating on Earth now and then going directly back to their planets, what are they coming here specifically to help with? Is that coming out in your sessions?
Yeah, so they are coming here specifically, it seems at least, to help. Again, it seems sort of cliche at this, because it comes up so often, but to help raise the vibration, to help people remember who they truly are. I guess what's come through actually, what you asked reminded me of something recent where somebody brought through the information that we are in this sort of, or many, not all of us, but many are in this loop of not remembering who they are and not really getting in touch with their spirit being. And so they just keep incarnating and we're here, or star beings are here, beings that are here doing high vibrational work, are here to help those that are stuck in a loop get out of the loop and remember who they are. Now, I don't know, right? I will never know until the end, right? But I think that when we pass on, we remember who we are, right? We remember that, but maybe it's more of a lesson, right? A lesson that we're caught up in because this world can be so much sometimes. And so instead of, thinking of it as a this loop that we're just stuck in and we don't know anything when we die too, and we just incarnate right away and all that stuff. I don't get the feeling like it's that. I get the feeling that we pass on at whatever point. We have our life review. We decide at some point to have another life. And we go, okay, I really didn't get it last time, so let's do it again, kind of thing. And that could be what's happening. That seems to be the thing that comes through the most in that regard.
That's so interesting. So it makes me wonder if this big shift is happening now and there's so many souls coming in to help raise the frequency and help people get out of their, loops that they've been stuck in. How long have we been incarnating here, stuck in the same loops? Do you have any thoughts on that? And like, why has
That's,
that been happening?
yeah, that's an interesting question. I've never asked that type of question in a hypnosis session, but in sessions, we can go back really far. I've had clients go back. I may have mentioned this before, but I've had clients go back to the breaking off, like deciding way, 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 way back, deciding to be separate, right? And what would that be like? And breaking off from source, let's say, and going into the process of having incarnations. So, whether or not we, got stuck in this loop in recent times, I'm not sure. But it seems like there is a heck of a lot of us who are stuck in the loop of fear. And this fear, I mean, you see it in even in the spiritual community. This fear is sort of in a loop itself, right? And yeah, I think it's easy to get drawn into it and down and have a hard time raising your vibration to sort of pull yourself up out of it. And I know from working with clients and even myself is as you start that spiritual, I'll just use the word ascension for lack of a better word, but like ascension upwards, those down days that you have really feel like down days, right? It might have been normal last year or a few years ago or something to feel that way almost every day. But when you start going upwards, it's like that drop feels really tough. And I think it's easier to bounce back out of it if you remember, if we remember, what might be going on for us and who we are and remembering our path. But yeah, I think it's easy to get drawn down nowadays, right?
Yeah, I want to go back to what you said that you've had some people regress all the way back to the point of breaking off from source, I assume.
Yeah.
Have any of them like tried to explain what it's like before the breaking off?
Mm. So the ones that come to mind that happened with, they spoke about a unity that was so, I mean, I remember the person in there was a few of them, there was a few online and one person in my office that had this experience. And the emotion that came with it, with that unity feeling before let's say breaking off, right? Was so profound that each person in their own way had sort of this releasing fear of death. So it was, you know, in hypnosis, we call it abreaction. It's not something bad. It's just emotion, right? Lots of emotion. And so these people felt this overwhelming feeling of incredible love, incredible unity. Of course, when they're online or in the chair, they're thinking, I don't want to break off, right? I don't want that. Some people have mentioned it looks like a sun. A person mentioned Mother Mary. Another person mentioned the eye, like kind of an Egyptian eye. So I think like that's where we come from, kind of thing, right? I believe that, you know, in that moment, as a human going through that process, you're thinking, what am I doing? Like, why am I breaking away? And then we understand it through the process of hypnosis. So what, you know, why you did that to experience, right? To understand what it would be like to be physical in many incarnations and not in others, and just to experience life. But in the moment, it can be overwhelming and loving and beautiful, but still like, why did I do that? You know? Yeah. I hope that answers your question or helps.
Yeah, absolutely. My next question was going to be to ask you why souls break off. And you sort of already
Mm.
answered that by saying to experience what it's like to be physical or non-physical and to understand what would you say the whole purpose of a soul breaking off to have? Is it more like an individual experience or
Yeah. So what people have explained it as is we hear this word contrast a lot. It is to experience the contrast for expansion. So think of the energy of the universe expanding outward, right? And I like to think of it as God's source, the universe, but if God wanted to understand itself, understand what the creation that is, right? All encompassing. It would need to experience everything, right? Everything. And with the knowledge, apparently, the knowledge that is coming from us experiencing different situations is sort of this energetic code or energetic knowledge that just sort of expands the universe and expands it outward and outward and outward. As for like exacts, I couldn't give you exacts, but well, you know, we're here to really just feel into this life, to experience all that it has to offer as much as we have come here for, and to try not to judge the experiences as much as possible. What we might see as bad or good, bad or good, it's still a judgment. Do you know what I mean? So we as humans have this incredible ability to judge things as good or bad or neutral. But it's funny because a lot of people go into these pre-life planning places and they say, "Oh my gosh, I was so excited to experience this lack," you know?
right?
And it's interesting that we get here. There's a lot of us that get here and we go, "Oh my gosh, what did I do?" Right? Even before growing up, as we're sort of, I'm going to use the word siphoning down into the human form, as we're getting closer and closer to this physical form, we're going, oh my gosh, you know, like what did I sign up for? You know? And so it can play out in all kinds of ways.
Thank you so much for explaining that. And I want to ask you the question that you mentioned in your email when it
Yeah.
comes to pre-birth planning. The deeper question of why would I sign up for this life? I think we've already covered that quite a bit because we want to have the experience of what it's like to be in lack or whatever else it may be. I talk to pre-birth experiencers all the time who sign up for these horrendously difficult lives because they want the experience. How does that experience benefit the soul, or is there a benefit? Is it just simply to have the experience, or is there a purpose beyond that?
Yeah. So when people go into that place, life between lives, pre-birth planning place is kind of part of that. I always have them at some point during the session sort of project their consciousness of out of the soul in a way and look back at themselves. And so in that moment, I'm asking them questions like, what do you look like? Or what's there? Or do you have a color? Are you light or what? Right? And so they're answering as that. Now, then I usually say, okay, you just had a tough go of it, right? You had this happen or that happen, and I want you to just hold that in mind that that happened and watch your soul. What happens? Inevitably, the soul expands or becomes brighter. It seems that we are traveling, I don't know if traveling is the right word, but we are part of groups that are soul groups, right? Family soul groups that are sort of the word that I want to say is rising together. So we are, in a sense, pulling each other up, right? Up and up and up and up. And someone who might be having a hard go of it, we are at the soul level at least helping pull them up. There is this idea of sort of this symphony. I think I mentioned this before. Sorry, I keep going back in my mind like, did I say this already? This symphony of energy. So think of yourself as having the most amazing, spiritually enlightening experience. I know I did. I spoke about it back in 2020. I had this experience. And when it started to wane, the feeling from it, I was grasping, because I thought, well, where is that going? Right? Why is it leaving me? What did I do? Right? And what's come to me over the years, and actually somebody mentioned it in a hypnosis session to me as if it was a message for me, which was beautiful, is it is for all of us this as we ascend again, as we ascend, let's say, frequency or vibration, we are naturally pulling others' vibration up. And so if you think about how, maybe you're not involved in society, but you feel like you've really are vibrating at a high rate, let's say, a high frequency. You don't have to go to your neighbor and say, this is what you need to do. Do you know what I mean? You will naturally pull them up. So the client, I remember them sort of explaining it like a symphony, right? We are rising and falling, but we never we don't when we fall, it's not like a falling like you're done, your vibrations crap, like it's you just give up kind of thing. It's not like that. It's more of we're going down to lift everybody at the same time. I know I'm probably talking in circles here, but basically when we have these challenges, when we apparently sign up for these crazy lives, right? We are expanding and lifting. We are lifting people around us without even knowing it. I think there's been tests of people in meditation and how people felt or things that happened in the community or city while the meditation was happening. And they didn't even know, like, not everyone knew meditation was happening, but just things got better, right? So I really truly believe that, you don't have to be working one-on-one with somebody to help raise their vibration. If you're trying your best to be in a good high vibration state, then yeah, it just helps. It helps everybody.
Yeah, I actually interviewed Lynn McTaggart, and she's done the intention experiments, and they've actually done,
Oh,
I don't know if it was her or, but somebody did experiments to see what would happen if a group of people were meditating and were able to document that crime went down and things like that. And she had explained to me in the interview that every person that you're connected to, any person that you have any type of connection to, they are affected when you expand spiritually because we're all connected energetically. So you don't have to have an in-person contact with them for them to be positively affected by it.
yeah, that's beautiful, isn't it? And I see, this is sort of a side note to that. There is a lot of people in this world that feel like they have to be directly in contact with somebody to f fix them, right? To help them raise their vibration. But, it's not necessary. And you're hurting yourself, right? Trying to fix others. And I don't like using that word fix, but it's the only thing that comes to me in that regard. But yeah, just by having knowledge of your own where you sit vibrationally. I mean, you don't need to know the hertz or anything, but you know what I mean? Like just feeling into that and knowing that down days are going to happen. They're probably going to feel pretty down, especially when you're rising. But as you tune in to that higher vibration, it is somewhat easier to bounce back from those down days, especially if you just meditate and you put yourself back into those thought patterns. As a hypnosis specialist, I say to people all the time, like if we can drag ourselves down with thoughts, we can lift ourselves with thoughts. Thoughts have energy and no thought goes unnoticed by the body. So just be aware of that.
I would like to ask you more about the pre birth planning process itself. Do
Yeah.
souls plan everything that's going to happen in their lives or just the main important things? And is it the same for everybody or is it different for different souls?
That's a good question. So, what has come through is we have free will in the terms like I'm going to pick up a pen right now. I chose to pick that pen up, but chances are in my pre-birth planning I wasn't going to say to myself, "Okay, I'm going to pick up a pen," at this
Right.
moment. Those little times in life are not apparently not woven in, let's say, to the plan. Big occasions are, turning points are. I mean, how many times I notice this with people, I notice it with myself. How many times have you in life been presented with sort of nothing and then suddenly two or three things to choose from, right? It's like life's trucking along and you've got really, I know for myself, like maybe not a lot going on, right? In the past, at least. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, two or three options come your way, right? And it's in those moments that we are making a decision on our future, right? And those are sort of built into the plan. My brain is going in like 10 different directions right now. I want to just for a moment touch on timelines. Infinite, right? Infinite amount of timelines. So if you've got something built into your plan, chances are just say you're going for a job, right? And you're looking for a job and suddenly you have a job interview lined up, but because of that energy flowing your way and because this is a turning point in your life, two other job interviews come into your, you've got three to choose from, and you're thinking, wow, this could take me to California, this could take me to Switzerland. Like, it's so different how your life might play out depending on what you choose. There are timelines, infinite timelines for those choices. And those kind of things are apparently built into your life path, let's say. But no matter what you choose, you are not doing it wrong. There's not something where you're going to choose it and that's it, you did it wrong. You're like, that kind of stuff. It's no matter what you choose, that that is part of a plan, right? And that will take you in different directions. Big milestones in life are built in. Someone said once in a session, I hope I get it right, something along the lines of if it's meant to happen, like if you've built it into your plan, it's it's going to happen. Like you don't have to scrape ahead for it, Like it's going to happen. But wouldn't it be nice to know all that, right? Like wouldn't it be nice to know what's going to happen? But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, right? As for like whether or not some souls have that and some souls don't, I haven't seen any difference with that. I've seen everyone that I've worked with, this is what they've got built into their plan, and that was meant to happen in their past, and that's why they're here today and doing this thing and that thing. And if that thing in the past didn't happen, then you wouldn't be doing this today, right? You'd be on a different timeline. But no matter what, again, like all is well, no matter what timeline you're on. I think the biggest message is just to try your best to stay away from fear and be in peace. I want to say peace. I used to say joy, and I want to say peace this time because joy and happiness are externally motivated, right? Something happens around us and that makes me happy, that makes me joyful. But once that thing stops happening, well, where's the happiness and joy? I mean, you can try to keep it going inside of you, and that's beautiful. But the biggest thing I think is to have peace, right? And when you have peace, joy, moments of joy and moments of happiness, they last longer, right? And we can access them much easier. But staying away from fear, you're trying to stay in peace is important.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I would love to move on and talk about your clients' stories of otherworldly incarnations. This is an endlessly fascinating topic we could probably talk about for hours because, as you mentioned, there seems to be infinite other planets and types of beings. But what are some things, sure, some stories that stand out to you?
Yes. So I've had somebody go to, I'll just talk about it as if like they're all kind of one. Like each being is a story. But know that there's probably been like multiple of that. Say I talk about a gray, which I'm about to. There's been multiple grays come through in session, but I'm sort of lumping it all into one, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
So during grays coming through, I've had one where they went to a planet, the gray planet, apparently, that is highly functional. So what I mean by that is there are family units, but it is very stark. Beautiful but stark. So this one person in particular went and was a scientist type being that was working on genetics of all things, right? So there was a knowledge that yes, grays were coming to Earth at different times to receive genetics. Apparently, grays want to go back to giving birth the way we do, which apparently they don't. It's more of a science, not scary, grown, not organically birthed. And so they went there. They had a moment where something good had happened in the science, like a discovery, and they were congratulated and stuff like that. They had a family unit, but again, when I say family, like there's love there, there's joy there, but it's just very functional feeling. Is that the right word? Like it's very kind of, you do this, you do that, you get that done. There's not a lot of deeper stuff going on in that respect. Another lifetime. I'm trying to think of lifetimes that I haven't mentioned on your show before, but if they come up again, that's okay.
Yeah, that is okay.
Yeah. So another one was this one in particular was preparing to come to Earth. They had a mission that they were told, okay, we'd like you to go to Earth to do this thing that we spoke about just about half an hour ago, where we're like raising the vibration and helping the Earth move away from fear. And so this being was sort of in outer space on a platform, ready to transition into light and move into an Earth body. And so that was really interesting. They felt themselves, it was a woman that was in the session, and she felt herself to be a male, very tall, kind of decked out in military almost gear. And so that was fascinating. Like that was one of those ones where it was like really, okay, yeah, we some of us decide to come here and live a life, but we have another life going on that we're maybe going back to. The mermaid story was really interesting, where, going underwater, and the mermaids do not look like, it's not like Little Mermaid. It's very, very different. One of them had, in one session, the mermaid had very sharp teeth, like a long tail, very long tail. Another one sort of was like a manatee. Lots of light beings, lots of just beautiful places where we have, I'm going to say, easy lives, right? It's kind of places where other planets where we're going there to just sort of relax and take a break, right? And what's another one? Another I had recently an alien who was giving birth during their session, if that makes sense. So like they went into the alien body and they were in that body giving birth. Someone else found out that they had a team, a spirit team of aliens, star beings, and this was very new knowledge to them. And so that took a little bit of processing to understand and just I guess accept in a way, right? That they were being held and loved and supported by a team of beings that we as human have been taught to fear. And that's another thing I want to touch upon is when we get there in session, there's not there's not fear about seeing yourself with different hands or different feet or elongated bodies, or there's no fear around that. It's more curiosity, it's more interest. There's always lessons, right? There's always lessons about that in life between lives, because that's normally where pre-birth planning sort of comes up. It's all about messages, lessons, understanding you know, what are the parallels that maybe are dragging forward from a past life into this life? How do those overlap? What can we learn from that? I know one gentleman went into the pre-birth planning place and he had a really tough time in this life with his mother. And he was wondering, when am I going to be done with this, right? Like when is this karma done? And in that moment, this was actually really interesting. And in that moment, he was told by his guides there that now, in this moment, now that you've recognized it, you've learned from it, you can shelve it, you can put it away. And it turned into this beautiful this idea, this energetic ball, let's say, that he took into this lifetime. Excuse me, and that energetic ball meant him and his mom would have this this back and forth idea, stuff going on. That energetic ball sort of crystallized and he placed it away as if he was sort of, I think he mentioned he placed it inside of a mountain in his mind and it just became part of the mountain, that crystal. Yeah, so a lot of people in session, we go through breaking contracts if it's necessary and if it's allowed. I say allowed because sometimes a contract will ask your higher self or guides, is this contract okay to break at this time? And sometimes it's a no. Mostly it's a yes, but sometimes it's a no and they need to learn more from it or continue with it for more learning. But most of the time it's a yes, you can release that now and sort of put that away.
You mentioned the grays, which
Hmm.
is a huge topic of
Hmm.
conversation in the spiritual community. Like, what are they doing? Are they benevolent or malevolent? Are they working with the government? Like all of these
Hmm.
questions that people have. What is your perspective on them after regressing people who have lived lives as gray extraterrestrials? Like, are they benevolent? Do they have good intentions? And what's going on with the abduction stories?
Yes, so in terms of them being benevolent, think of how we have set up lifetimes. Sorry, my camera is really focusing on my face. We've set up lifetimes where we have a challenge or a lesson set up with somebody in our life, mom, dad, brother, sister, friend, whoever. We do the same thing with grays. We do the same thing with light beings. We have lessons and stuff that we have signed up to do with them. Now, I know that this is sort of an out there answer and not everyone is going to like it. I don't know if it's like the truth. Obviously, we'll never know until we're there. But from what comes through, in terms of abductions, there's so much to unpack there, but the general consensus is that the abductions that aren't, I'm going to say manufactured, and we'll leave it there for that part, okay? But the abductions that are from aliens, star beings, we have set up with them before we even incarnated. We have apparently said to them, okay, let's say the Greys, right, are very into genetics. Okay, I will help you receive genetics for your life as a Gray, and I will experience that as a human. And that experience will lead to this and that and learning and challenges or whatever it leads to. But apparently we set this up beforehand, just like, we would set up things with our parents and things with our friends, right? So I know it's not the most liked answer because these are real experiences that sometimes cause real feelings, right? And real emotions that are hard to deal with. But that's my answer for you. That's what comes through in terms of that is we are setting this up because we're grays at times, right? We are Pleiadians at times. We are Arcturians at times. We are beings that we haven't even come up with names for yet at times, right? And so it really is every being is this energetic form that we have lifetimes with and we are growing with. And they might be 5 galaxies away, but we are energetically moving with them, right? We are attached to them in some way because we're learning from them or conversing with them or meeting them or there's so many experiences that people have with them.
You also mentioned the water world, which is the most common planet that I hear about from NDEers. I specifically remember Venia Hill. I interviewed her. She had an NDE where she went to a water world and she saw the manatees that you mentioned, as well as the mer people.
Oh,
She didn't even know that
yeah.
manatees existed on Earth until later in her life. She saw a picture and she's like, oh, that's the being that I saw in my NDE. So that's so cool. It comes up all the time, but are you able to share more about that planet and what life is like there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there's more than one water world, right? I remember a specific client that went there was this mermaid type, right? And when we got there, she was feeling really alone. I remember her sort of sitting on, it sounds so Little Mermaidish, but she was sitting on a rock, kind of looking out, and she knew that there were others on her kind, let's say, that she was different from them, right? She felt different. She felt like she had different ideas apart from their ideas. And so when she went underwater, she explained sort of going to her family and friends, let's say, in that world. And what ended up happening was she spoke to them, she learned from them, they learned from her. What comes to mind briefly, I'll touch upon is it's almost like excuse me. It's almost like when we are going to these other planets and when we are going to these past lives, it's almost like we are changing the timeline and healing what is coming up, like actually healing at a soul level. I believe that in my heart now that after doing this so much, there's so much healing going on that it's like you are in that moment releasing old lifetimes, releasing future lifetimes, releasing that timeline, redoing that timeline. I mean, think of how many people say that time isn't real, right? Everything's happening at once. So maybe we can go back and in that moment, right, underwater with her friends and family, do the healing that needed to be done at that time and change things up for that timeline, right? So it was beautiful underwater. She didn't mention anything like where they lived or if there was houses, what we would call houses underwater, but she did mention the beauty of it, the ripples of it, the light shining down. She mentioned how she never would have thought that a mermaid would look like this because There was an element to it that was a little, I don't want to say scary because it wasn't scary for her, but it was a little different. Like if we saw it as a human, we would think, "Oh man, what kind of movie is that from?" Right? Like I said before, the sharp teeth. There was an element of a face that was kind of long tail, like whip almost, like not a mermaid tail where, the idea of a mermaid tail that goes down and has these lovely, but it was very, very long. I'm trying to think of like an animal on Earth that has that, but I can't think of it right now. But it was beautiful. I remember she had a lot of emotion come up about that. She could understand why she felt the way she did in this lifetime, right? Because oftentimes, and this is something to just say, to bring up, is oftentimes what you're going through in this lifetime and what you want to work on will take you back to a lifetime that you're pulling it forward from. You know what I mean? So you can think, oh, I want to go to a lifetime that's like this or like that, or, a beautiful lifetime, but you're gonna go. I haven't seen it otherwise, but you're gonna go where you're meant to go, where your higher self has, said to in the spirit realm, like you're gonna go there on that day and you're gonna learn this kind of stuff. So it usually has something during the experience is tied to what you're going through in this life, and it's a healing moment, right? So she could understand, okay, how she felt in this lifetime as being sort of not like others. She felt like her thoughts were, as many of us in the spiritual community think, like, oh my gosh, I'm really out there, right, with my thoughts, but not connecting. She felt like she didn't connect with people in this lifetime. So she went back and understood that that was something like an energetic ball, let's say, that she took from that lifetime of feeling that way. And she thought, okay, I'm gonna learn from that and I'm gonna place it, let's say, in my energy and move into this lifetime and experience that again so that I can learn more from it. Lessons and challenges, I would love to think of them as all about love and harmony and learning beautiful things in the world, but so many of the challenges and lessons that we're here learning, are about power dynamics and feeling like lack, like I said in the beginning of the interview, these really hard things that as a soul, apparently we want to understand at a deeper level so that apparently we can help other souls and we can help people around us. Yeah, and I think about so many people in your community and my community and in the world that are struggling or have struggled with lessons and challenges. And then they find themselves so much better at helping others with that same challenge because they've gone through it, right? And they understand it at a deeper level. And I think it's so important to know that you you don't have to be perfect to help others. We are never going to be perfect, right? I have a lot of people tell me, well, I want to do this or I want to do that or I want to become this, but I'm still working on myself. And I always say to them, just do it. If you feel called to help others in that way, do it because we are always working on ourselves, right? We are always, hopefully, changing and morphing and moving forward and not getting stuck in the past and just, yeah, moving forward in so many different ways that it's just a natural, like I said, with the vibration, and you said with that woman that you interviewed, like our vibration just lifts others, right? And you don't have to be the highest vibration going in order to lift others. We are constantly on this like a symphony of energy that's up and down and all around. But if we have our good intentions and love in our heart and peace as much as we can, then I think that it's just going to help the world move forward to where it needs to be or where we wanted it to be coming into this lifetime.
Great. Beautifully said. Are you able to share more about the light beings? You mentioned light beings who live on planets with easy lives. Are you able to share more detail about those places?
Yeah, what immediately comes to mind is these light beings that are from planets where immediately clients see crystals, crystal cities, crystal ground, crystals all around them. And the light beings are they in some instances can create form with them their being, if that makes sense. But mostly they come across as I don't know what's something that we've got here that would like a like a ball of light, right? A ball of light, sometimes color light, sometimes just pure like just essence of light. And I've had people go there and they say, "What are you doing here?" As if it's an NDE. Like it's so weird. But they go there and they get to look around for a little bit and then they leave and go somewhere else. But generally, it's these worlds of beings that sometimes have form, but in a light sense, right? So sometimes they are this energetic form that is shaped as a human, but mostly I've seen just orbs of light. I've seen, but they've seen in hypnosis these orbs of light that sort of float around and interact with you and are part of your family. Some soul family, sometimes it's an old friend, whether or not it's from this lifetime or not, that's another story, but absolutely some people have I'm trying to think of like all the little nuances to who's brought that through, but sometimes someone will like I said earlier, say that they came from that planet to Earth and they will be returning. But yeah, these beautiful beings. And sometimes, sorry, sometimes there are like the crystal palaces, like the crystal cities. I say crystal palace because I think I've heard that before in somewhere else. And when it came through in session, I thought, oh my gosh, does this person know about this place, right? Because I've heard about it. I think Dolores Cannon had spoke about it. And so I remember in one session asking the person afterwards, "Do you know about the Crystal Palaces?" And they're like, "What? What are you talking about?" So that was interesting. Like it's always fascinating to me when someone has no idea like any of it and then they go there anyway. But yeah, it's just a place of relaxation. The general feeling of it is just peacefulness in that incarnation or in that lifetime. Oh, you can leave, you can go and stay as you please. So those incarnations, if that's even the right word for it, for those lifetimes, you are so close to source. There's no veil, right? So you are able to go from this planet to somewhere else to source to wherever, pre-birth planning, like wherever, council, wherever you want to go. And so yeah, that was of interest too when that came up. I hope that answers. I know it's just all over the place because
Ah,
there's so many. Oh my gosh.
we'll continue with a few more questions, but we're going to take a break so that Hillary can share about her work, where people can find her, and where you can sign up to work with her if you're interested in having a regression.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So my website will be listed in the description below. I'm the owner of State of Mind Hypnosis and Training Center. I do all kinds of hypnosis here, including spiritual hypnosis. We also train hypnotists and do further education for people that are hypnotists. But other ways of getting in touch or just being part of my community, I've got a Patreon, which every month I do meditations. You have access to meditations. Every week I do a channeled message for humanity, not like specifically for each individual, but lots of different stuff there. You can have a free consult one-on-one with me. That'll be in the description below as well.
Wonderful. I'll have those links in the description, so go check them out. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is you mentioned that you have had experiences yourself of having contact with star beings. You've also had clients with those experiences.
I'll start with mine and then we can sort of circle back to the client's experiences. I'm trying to think. So there was this one experience. So I'll tell this experience because this was really moving and emotional for me. I was falling asleep one night and I had this experience where I was suddenly on a ship, I guess, and Earth was outside the window, let's say. In that experience, to my left, there was sort of a family of aliens. I'm going to start off by saying they were sort of blue, not incredibly tall, but probably around my height, maybe 5'4", short. But they were blue, and I walked up to the window overlooking Earth, and I saw myself, my reflection in the window, and I saw myself as blue. At that time, I felt male, and I had this like interesting thing on my forehead, almost like when people wear these beautiful sparkly things on around their head, but it was on my forehead. Anyway, I looked to my right and there was this child alien, blue alien, and the child alien wrapped its long little fingers around my thumb like this. Okay. They had like three, so it was like that. But I felt really, really connected to this family this child and this life or whatever was happening in that moment. And I woke up the next day. I thought, oh, wow, that was interesting. I still felt the connection. And I ended up having the next day forward eczema here. Okay. Now, for people listening right now, it seems obvious where it came from. Okay. It might seem obvious, but it took me way too long to figure it out. So I had that eczema on my thumb right here for the good part of 3 to 4 weeks. In the car one day, I was so aggravated by it. I just reached out and I was like, where is this coming from? Right? Like, what is this? And immediately I was brought back to this child that had wrapped its fingers around. Now, in my line of work, emotions that we hold on to can present in the body in different ways. And immediately I felt this deep connection to this family again, but also a sadness like, have they forgotten me? Right? Do they remember me or do they know I'm here or something like that? And I'm not I'm not even exaggerating to say that it started to immediately clear up. By the next day, it was sort of red and there was new skin there forming, but it had cleared up. So, something I had done, I guess I recognized the emotion and I forgave it and cleared it, but it was tied to that family of star beings. So that was really, really interesting. More recently, I had, again, a lot of stuff happens like as I'm going either into sleep or coming out of sleep. But it was the morning, and I had in my bedroom this flash of light and this being, sort of see-through, white blue, very tall, come through the light. And for some reason, they ran over to the side of my bed and crouched down like a child, like hiding, right? Now, I wasn't scared at all. And I said, hello, hello, like as if, hello, hello. And it got up and again walked back to the end of the bed and was incredibly tall. I'm gonna say like 6.5, 7 feet. Very square jaw, like chiseled jaw, male in form, kind of see-through, again, see-through white, a little bit of blue. Not huge eyes, but probably like 3 to 4 times the size of human eyes. And there was just this lovely knowing. I looked into his eyes and it just felt like this knowing. He didn't talk. He didn't say anything, but there was just this connection. Now, literally a couple days later, I was contacted by somebody to be a co-author in a book that's coming out in August about making contact with star beings. So in my mind, I thought, okay, maybe, this being was sort of they were preparing me or something, right, for this ask. So that was exciting and really interesting. And yeah, it just makes me feel like we're just all so, so connected. As for like who the being was, I feel like it might have been one of my guides. I feel very connected to aliens, to star beings, to that realm. So it could be a guide. I think when talking about past interviews with you, I may have mentioned that I had this sort of out of body experience where I went into deep space and there was this like dome shape thing and there was beings underneath it. That's who I go to now for channeling. When I do my channeled messages, I go to them. But just this deep connection to all of them, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's a lot of fun and it's yeah, so interesting. I've probably said interesting like 10,000 times on this podcast, but it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to thank you so much for sharing from your own experiences and from your work. It's just always such a fascinating conversation talking with you.
Thank you.
And I'll just close out by asking you two questions, two quick questions that I ask all of my guests. The first one is, what is the best way in your experience to connect with that expanded divine love and bliss state that we experience out of body?
I would say meditation. I would say try not to get frustrated in meditation. I know a lot of people can get frustrated because our minds are just, going off in every direction. It's hard to sort of come back. But I would say in meditation, you don't necessarily need to empty your mind of everything. I would start off with imagination. Use your imagination to call in a guide, to call in a being, to set yourself up in a beautiful light so that you're contacting the highest, right? That will come to you. But really use the power of your own energy and your own imagination to make a connection and just see where that leads you. My greatest meditations and experiences come from just imagining myself by a lake, sitting on a bench, and having guides come to me and just speak to me or tell me something, right? And it can expand from there. So I would say, uh, absolutely, there is meditation where you're sort of at peace and silent in your mind, and you're becoming the observer in so many different ways. And that expansion is beautiful, but it's not the only way. It's not the only way to connect. So I would absolutely encourage viewers and listeners to go into meditation and use your imagination, even if you think you're making it up, okay? Even if that thought comes through your mind. This is crazy. Am I making this up? Right? Just go with it because it can turn into something absolutely beautiful and transforming.
And my final question is, if you could give every person on the planet one message, what would it be?
I think I would go back to the stay away from fear idea and try to be in peace as much as possible. We, as humans, are naturally drawn to fear because we think it keeps us alive and it keeps us, knowing everything that could go wrong. But try your best to stay in peace and turn away from the fear because that will help you on the inside, right? And when we can't sometimes, many times, change the outside world, we can change our inside world. Absolutely. So try your best to stay in peace.
Thank you so much for watching. My guests' links can be found in the description box. If you have had a near-death experience, pre-birth experience, out-of-body experience, past or between life memories, or spiritual awakening story that you would like to share, find the link to apply in the description box. If you would like to support the channel, we have a few fun ways that you can do that. I do have a merch store linked in the description. We've put some of the phrases on t-shirts that you guys requested. I have affiliate links to my favorite blue blockers, my favorite red light panel, and a couple of other companies that I work with. You can join my membership at the Sanctuary. You can sign up for an energy healing. I also offer a 4-session energy healing package. You'll find all these links in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Now go live your most extravagantly loving life.